Welcome back, everyone, to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing out there? So we saw President Trump and RFK Jr. come together as a team. RFK Jr. dropped out, and then he endorsed President Trump, and then quickly went over to President Trump's rally in Arizona and gave a wonderful speech and basically endorsed President Trump for the election. So this was a really good thing. The speech RFK Jr. gave was excellent. Okay, basically laid it all out. Really good to hear a true discourse in for a change, right? In a sense of what's actually going on. Now, the other thing that President Trump said that he was going to do was release the JFK files, and JFK and the RFK and the assassination files, but mostly around the JFK. And this is a really good thing if it goes through, okay? Now the deep state are just quaking. Now the other thing we saw was the DNC, the crazy communist DMC, and how insane these people are, let's just say, and what they're actually trying to push, what they're gaslighting the populace into, okay? Wow. Okay, so outside of the DNC right at the beginning, they had these mobile vans for, baby deletion and male, clipping, depopulation program, right? Can't really say exactly, but you get the message, and crazy. Very reminiscent of the execution vans rolling around with the Chinese communists and these people, right? That's just one thing. The other thing is they kind of rolled out Joe Biden and then rolled him back in and basically shuffled him along and pushed this candidate, the communist Comrade Kamala, as President Trump said in his rally, or called her new name. The coup is so obvious. It's absurd, actually. So there's that. What else did we see in that whole process? And so, throughout that whole, I guess that was the whole week, right? We saw a rash of stabbings throughout Europe. Okay. The latest one was in Germany at a festival for anniversary of a town. And 3 people were murdered. There's been a rash of stabbings throughout the UK, all throughout Europe. There was one in the Netherlands. Sweden is also given another alarm over the gang violence there. And so like this thing with the border invasion, I mean, it is working in a way of creating the division and creating, the societal collapse that's needed, but also infiltrating the Western world with particular groups that are there to perform some of these acts, but also for future plans. Now, all these proxy wars going on in the world, it's very reminiscent of the Cold War. And that's kind of what they're kind of pushing us along into is this Cold War 2.0, where we think we're always on the verge of a calamity, okay? Some kind of disaster, world war, or climate calamity, or something, right? So, and chances are they're going to create that, right? And so we can see it. We can see how they've got players in all sides that are sort of implementing this. So it's kind of a perfect storm. You've got this open border invasion, bringing in these people. You've got agents and extremist groups that are placed there, trigger a war, a global conflict, or a wider war, a war with Iran, for instance, right? And creating a further conflict with some of these more extreme nations or these extremist groups, and then trigger an action within the United States. If there's open war declared, right? Not only in the United States, but also in Europe, in the UK, right? And so we're seeing it. We're seeing all of this play out, right? This is astounding. People are tuning into it, though. They're waking up to it. This is part of the whole point. People need to be informed, right? That's a big part of it, right? So like you see on the other side of that, where the censorship sweep, and they're trying to censor everybody, and the battle for free speech is there. They don't want people knowledgeable about their schemes and their machinations and how they go about this, right? Now we see this with the U.S. campaign, the U.S. election, right, where the Democrat side, this Kamala deep state inserted group, are basically lying openly, okay? And like everything that Kamala was saying in her speech was just mixed message, basically a lie, all about herself, nothing really about policy, and attacking President Trump, right? And calling for war, calling for a war with a greater war, right? A greater motion towards a war footing, right? And so, yeah, the gaslighting operation, which is conducted by these intelligence community groups, basically trying to prop up this person that can't win. And so, and they've already openly admitted that they're going to use these people that they're bringing in and give them the ability to vote. Okay. So yeah, it's not really a good scenario, but we can see it happening. So it's kind of funny how RFK Jr., who is a huge advocate of food health and general health in many ways, and very against experimental vaccination and everything that we saw with the pandemic, he's very pro, and this is a very good thing, right? Like him and Trump coming together, if this is truly a scenario where they can work together when President Trump gets voted in, right, gets put into power, right, and they can sort of push forward with some of these ideas, right? This is going to be a good thing. This is creating a ripple within the globalist community. Like, they don't want this. They want us sick. They want us dying. He basically, RFK Jr. is directly attacking the depopulation agenda that these guys have been attempting to push. Okay, right. So he comes in, endorses Trump, and then a U.S. government report comes out about fluoride in the water, and about the type of fluoride that they've been using for the last 60 years is creating cancer and basically lowering the IQ of people. And this is a huge development, man. Like, they've been gaslighting people about fluoride right since the end of World War II and telling them that this is good. It's essentially a poison, the type of fluoride that they're using. It's an industrial affluent. It comes from, it's a byproduct of industry, let's just say, and they've been feeding it to us and gaslighting us into believing that it's healthy for us, right? So very interesting, right? That's what we see. We see these kind of shifts within the politic, I guess, and more this pro-human, pro-freedom movement. And we see certain elements within the establishment, within the corporate community kind of switching over, right? Because they see where the tide is moving, right? But there's still a concentrated effort to kind of pull people over. And so rest assured, like in the US, they are going to do everything to grab that election. They really want to install this ineffectual leader, this person, to destroy the US. And we're seeing the same thing happen in the UK right now. If it continues and it continues and it continues, the Western world, there will be nothing left. And we will be moving into the next phase of the global situation in that regard, right? It is not going to go there. we are going to shift. We are shifting this energetically. The shift is already there, right? The actions need to continue to take place, right? And this is what we're seeing, right? And this is what we need to see, and we need to encourage it. Okay, let's see, what do we have in store for us in the coming week, in the next few days? All right, so right in the middle here, we've got the Lovers reverse, and that's being at odds, right? So what we are actually seeing is the other side being at odds with each other. Okay, that's a very important thing to sort of understand, that they are not the deep state, like in the United States especially. There's definitely a tug of war going on, because everything that they've attempted to do with Kamala has kind of failed. The message is kind of reversed, right? Every time that she goes out and speaks, her polls go down, right? It's the message that she is giving to the US is not the message that the majority of people really want to hear. And so that's the thing, is that people have to really realize that there really isn't this 50-50 split in the US. That's not real. They want the people to believe that. It's actually way more on the Trump side than people care to know that. And the more vocal people become, the more the silent majority start to come forward, right? But it's the insane policies that are really messing with them, right? So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. It's like, people really need to be proactive if we don't want to be in a war footing, right? But they've got us super distracted with the border scenario, okay? And with the open border, and basically like what we're seeing in the UK essentially is a good way to put it, right? Where they're gaslighting the people and basically criminalizing the people, and meanwhile letting in the true criminals, and people are being hurt, people are being killed, the people, right? And so that's where people need to become more active and more vocal, and and just continue to utilize the peaceful process, the process that was laid out with the rule of law, essentially. Hey, I know that the deep state's using it against us, right? But this is our only avenue right now. This is actually the thing that is preventing a kind of a civil war scenario, okay? But there is kind of like this global civil war taking place, okay? That in reality, okay? But it's, I can't believe how much people, well, I can believe this. I don't know why I say that, but it's amazing how much people kind of like move towards the division, right? And I guess you can't help but to move towards the false division that is there. It's a hard one, because now the divisions are real, like this, and this is kind of what this card really does talk about. Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Because they're leading us to war, is essentially what the scenario is being sort of played out, right? So yeah, these guys, they're caught in their tracks, right? So they don't really know what to do, actually. They've only got a few more steps left to them, right? And they're waiting for this next sort of scenario with President Trump being charged, I guess, fully, in September. So yeah, that's like a big thing. Yeah, you start talking about the economy, and you start talking about the health of people, right? And the health of families and stuff, and people start taking notice, right? And that's kind of what's taking place, is the gaslighting is kind of not working anymore. The older generation that, the baby boomer component that pushed a lot of this, they're no longer around to do it. And the ones that are vocal now are against a lot of what's going on, right? So, and this is kind of how it was pushed along generationally, and then the next generation, my generation, the millennial, and it's like we've picked up a part of the indoctrination, right? And pushed it along, right? Yeah, it's not working to a certain extent because the people that actually pay the bills and the people that keep the things floating, like economically, they're not going along with it. But see, that's the thing. That's why they're wanting to tap out the economy and make it unviable for future generations so that they can push this thing that we're seeing. Okay. Yeah, let's draw some more cards here. Yeah, quite startling what they want to push and what kind of an agenda that they're creating, right? So, like you regardless of what happens, like they've created this scenario of division where the conflict, like there's conflict all around us now. It's not just in isolated places. And that was the whole point, right? It really is on purpose, right? And they're trying to utilize these extreme elements for their purposes, the deep state, the globalists. So the message, okay, the voice, right? The magician represents the voice. It's funny, as above, so below. As within, so without. Okay? That's what he represents. And it's so funny, the magician, especially with this card set, he's kind of a Christ-like character, right? Where he is presenting the light, is presenting the truth, right? And that's what we have to be sort of there. We're the vanguard. All of us that are in the, right, on the freedom side, on the side of the people, we are there to amplify the message, amplify the voice of those that are speaking truth. Now, like I was saying, like with this RFK Jr. speech, like when he took himself off the ballot, when he withdrew his campaign, okay, and then endorsed President Trump before he went to the rally, that speech, excellent, right? And it's people like that kind of message needs to get out there more. We are here to amplify that message. We are here to take that message and go with it, and to move it into the next stage, and to activate some of it, and to activate it in our real world, in the world, right? But also the communication effect, right? And getting people to sort of look in that direction, okay, is very important. It's really what is going to stop these guys, like dead in their tracks, okay? And so, like, that's the thing, we have to kind of keep in that vibration of truth where we see it, okay? I guess that's what it's trying to actually say. But pay attention, yeah, this is going to be good. We're going to have some truth speakers come out. We're going to have people that are there to present the true information that's needed and to sort of uncover what these guys have been hiding, okay? I think a big thing too is part of this human trafficking, child trafficking scheme that these decrepit people, the deep state, the globalists, have been implementing all over the planet, right? But it's like with this border invasion in the US, in Europe, in the UK, there are hundreds of thousands of missing children that have been, I guess President Trump was talking about this, right? But this, you're going to have other people come out. I guess that was also in his, when he was talking about RFK Jr. endorsing him, he actually talked about that. But I'm seeing, that's what I'm saying, right? It's like that message is coming out. The awareness and the knowledge is coming out that these guys, that's part of what they're doing. That's part of their currency. That's part of what the globalists use as currency, as humans. Like, we have to really pay attention. That's what our tax paying money is going towards. That's why we're working very, very hard so that these guys live high in their ivory towers, in their little palaces and everything, so that they can do this, right? So that's something that but that's going to come out, right? There's going to be more of this. There's going to be more evidence, like kind of like this research now. And that's what we got to pay attention to, like with this fluoride thing, because that's what they've been doing is they've been gaslighting, and like the deep state and the globalists have been gaslighting and projecting onto people, onto the populace. They've also been putting out information around studies and research that has been conducted over long periods of time, that a lot of truth is coming out now, right? And the same thing is like with the medicines, the medications that we're taking, the vaccine, just what like the pharmaceutical companies have been doing, right? And it goes in line with the military industrial complex, goes in line with the banking, it goes in line with the schools, right? They're all interwoven. And that's one of the things where the information is coming out, right? And that's where the people come in, where we push that message, right? And activate that message, right? And so the work it's working. It really is. Like, man, this took a while to implement. Like, a lot of what we're seeing come out into the public has taken years, decades, some of it, to come out. And there's still more and more. Right? Like that, like that message that the RFK Jr. gave. I mean, yeah, he's quite embattled, okay? But it's hopeful in a lot of ways. It's good to see. It's very positive, right? And that's what we want. That's what we want to see with our leaders. We want honesty, right? That's just it. And that's a good measure between, it's basically, it comes down to that. Who's being honest and who's not? And I guess it's hard to say, but like for us that have taken ourselves away from the mainstream indoctrination, I was going to say the mainstream media, but the mainstream narrative, the mainstream mind virus, and have pulled ourselves away and have drawn information from independent sources and things like this, we can see how false some of this stuff is. It's very easy to spot, kind of like Comrade Kamala, and giving her, neo-Marxist me speech, a little bit of Marxism, a whole lot of narcissism. That's what we're dealing with. They can't hide some of the things that they're lying about, but see, you can also see how they get away with it and how easy it is for them to do it. So they're going to be brazen, right? Yeah, that's a big one. Some of that stuff's hard to accept too, actually, like what I was talking about with the trafficking of humans, right? And people have to sort of be wary of the disinformation that's pushed out too, because it also throws people off, right? And it throws people off from the truth. And the reason why it's put out there is to do exactly that, is to hide the actual truth of what's going on, right? And so, it's at such a astounding number, and it's kind of horrendous enough, just what's going on, like the fact that they're taking young children and infants and young people right from the border. There's people that are like set up right at the border, and they take them and then they shift them off and put them into the system, and they disappear. And there's all sorts of things that happen with them. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, and I guess the reason why I'm saying that is because of this card here, the Page of Wands, because this is a youthful energy, but it represents young people, right? And it has a lot to do with family. This is a family card, but like things are coming together, right? This is what that 10 really talks about. The completion of cycles. The moon is what is hidden. And so like the moon, like that's what's being revealed to us. And like these guys, like their occult behavior, their everything that's hidden that they've been trying to hide from people, right? It's all coming out. And that's what we need to be attentive on. That's where the real work lies, is bringing that information to the forefront and having it so that they can't shut it down. They can't censor it, right? That's like a big thing. But it has to come from a very sober place, okay? And what I mean by that is like coming from a place of reason. I mean, not negating the intuition, but recognizing how this is an information war, how there is information put out there purposely lying to people, misinformation, disinformation, and there are reasons. It's weaponized information, okay? And to become acquainted with that as well is very, very key, right? But it's all coming down to these final moments. Like, I mean, we've got, 70 days or something to the election, the 5th of November. And I mean, that V for Vendetta thing really rings true now. Remember the 5th of November. Because now it revolves around the U.S. election. One more, close it off with a little guidance. So I hope that's all kind of clear. I never really know what's going to come out when I'm doing the readings, it's kind of interesting. All right, so all reversed. All these cards are reversed. Okay, so, I mean, okay, let's start with this guy here, the 7 of Swords, right? The 7 of Swords is a deceit. Okay, so that being reversed means the deceit is being exposed, right? But a lot of this revolves around the mind. We have to remember that you have to take what you are picking up online and have it translate into the real world. If it doesn't translate into the real world, take a step back. I mean, don't negate it, but pay attention to what is actually going on in your real world, right? And realize where some of this stuff, where they have been, what they've been doing, it's happening right out your window, and some of it not, right? And some of it it's coming, right? Some of it they want us to perceive this division, right? They want us to perceive this conflict where, in a lot of places in the planet, in a lot of places in the Western world right now, there isn't that division. If people were to actually come together, not based on division, but unity, wow, like amazing, right? I mean, yes, there are divisions there. I do think that some of the things that people are divided on a day-to-day level can be worked through, right? We can see eye to eye. Might not fully agree, but we can work together. Why not? We have to, right? That's the kind of thing. And so it's like achieving that sense of balance in our world is kind of really what's needed. Yeah, I wish people would really actually see the nature of the charity organizations in the Western world. I really do think about 90% of them are corrupt and are no good, and they have to be dealt with. The same with the NGOs. A lot of the policy that's sort of happening is being implemented with these guys, right? And in a way, that's how they are sucking the resources out of the Western world, is through these organizations. And we see it. We're giving money to these migrants that are coming, right? And you're paying, and so soon it's going to be a role reversal where the people that are paying the taxes are going to be on the street, and those people that you're letting in are going to be living in your house, right? That's what they want. It really is partly a replacement thing, right? I mean, I don't want to get too extreme, right? But it is kind of on that level in certain places, right? Where you see these people, you got to pay attention, right? A lot of these people, they have your money in their bank account now. They're driving cars where you might not be able to. They're buying houses in places where you might not be able to or afford it, right? That's what's happening. We have to pay attention to it, okay? Striking balance though with our perceptions in the world, right? That's how they throw us off of our grounding, right? So grounding our energy daily, grounding out all of this stuff, grounding it out and drawing up your energy from the center of the earth and drawing it back into your center. This is a practice. Breathe that eternal breath, that one breath. Yeah, because they throw us off energetically and they utilize the mind. They utilize base emotionality, our base emotions, and the mindset, right? And that's one thing we got to be aware of, right? And so, yeah, they've been attempting to create their own form of a new human, just like how the early Soviet Union, they had this utopian conception of humanity. The Nazis had one, right? The Chinese, all of these social revolutionary movements have this eugenics kind of bend and this kind of idea of the next human, the next phase of humanity, and creating this new model human. And that's kind of what we've been sort of seeing in phases, right? And it's kind of happening. We see it with the sort of the transhuman agenda, and we see elements within the whole gender thing, right? And with played out, but there's another aspect to it, right? There's a higher aspect to that where they're trying to push all of humanity in this direction, just like how the Soviet Union, in a sense. I use the Soviet Union because it's a good example, right? It's also a good example because it died. I mean, I kind of have a feeling and an idea and a theory that it's kind of a big part of the machination of the 20th century, right? In some ways. I mean, it did come out of, the grassroots or, circumstantial, right? But there's also an aspect of that conspiratorial globalist, like this globalist notion comes from the internationalists from that era, right? And these groups in behind the scenes pulling strings often goes around money, right? And that's why I'm getting at that, right? So, wow, right? But we don't need to be so alarmed, right? Because the natural God-given human always prevails, right? This is the thing that nature always prevails, right? The creation always prevails. And that, yeah, they want to really throw us off of the natural track that humans are destined towards, right? And so part of that world card reminds us of that Aquarian impulse, that energy that seeks that enlightened stance, that stance of unconditional love and the recognition of the unity of humanity and the equality within humanity, right? Difference between equality and equity. That's another thing that we're really seeing, right? And yeah, everything isn't equal, but there is equality within the unequal portions, right? And like men and women still have to find the way to work with each other, right? And humans have to find the way to work with each other. And but that's part of that Aquarian impulse that we recognize, like on planet Earth, we are all family, and that humanity is to take that evolutionary step, that step past where we are now, and stop fighting one another, and to help foster a better reality on a massive scale, on a global scale, on a civilization scale, right? And that's what we're moving towards, and that's what we have to keep in mind, right? The world card really talks about what is needed to actually hit this stage of completion, right? And she has gone through the whole process to get her into this situation, right, where she is the representation of the whole human form, okay, the whole spiritualized human form, right? And so part of that is that she's purified herself, but she's not wearing any false masks, the false, like where you see this card where she's not wearing any clothes, but it represents like she's not hiding behind anything. She's hiding behind the truth. What protects her is truth, okay? But she has had to go through this strengthening process and this ability to exert a lot of like these ideas in a new way that doesn't promote fear, right? And that's kind of what this talks about, right? And that's kind of what we're moving towards, and we really do have to stay on that vibration and not allow ourselves to get really, pulled one way or the other. This thing with the Democrat and the Republicans, it's all made up. The left and the right, in a lot of ways, it's really, a lot of it is a machination of, people that want to control other people in so many ways, right? I mean, all of this stuff does come from, recognizing what is natural within the human form. People do have tendencies, this way or that way, right? But humans a long time ago recognized that you can control a person based on their beliefs, okay? And there's ways to do that, and that's totally what we're seeing, right? And so, like, I mean, that's what we've seen, like, with the Uniparty. Wow. The Uniparty, right? The Uniparty in every country in the Western world, especially, right? Where left, right, center, this, that, they're all kind of pushing the same agenda, right? And that's really what shows us, right? So we have to be reminded sometimes. We have to remind other people, and it's very helpful. It's very helpful to hear these words, right? And it's helpful to have a dialogue with other people in the world, right? Notice how I flipped this card over too, right? Because that's kind of what this is we are moving into this, right? So we have to go out into our world and not let ourselves be shut down at all. We can't be fearful, and we have to communicate and to express ourselves and to find, our fellow humans that are on a similar track. And it's very, very, very helpful, and it helps the other people that haven't quite got there to have the courage to move over. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope everybody enjoyed. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.